Welcome to Zach and Steve Have a Podcast Season 4 debut.
Wow, Season 3 was a humdinger.
Let's talk about Season 3. Season 3 came at a very bad time of the year, apparently.
Yeah. We should have taken more time off because we didn't have any time to do anything, and we tried to just power through. It didn't work.
Yeah, it did not work. We were forcing episodes in here and there and everywhere. I think we're in a place right now where we actually have time to come together and make a podcast. So we're glad you're still. I checked. I looked. I was like, man, we're probably down to nobody listening. We still have like people downloading the podcast. So good. Hopefully this keeps everything moving.
Yeah.
And no, we're really glad to be back. I can't say that we're any less busy.
Yeah,
but
it's just we're coming into a season where it's going to be Christmas and that's super busy.
Yeah, but we're around the office more. Yes. I feel like we're like, especially the summer. Summer is an awful time to try to do that. And
the only people that are in the office during the summer are the mice.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the mice have been at play in my office. I was so this past Wednesday, I was doing message prep for my upcoming Mark series, Gospel of Mark.
Yeah.
And I'm studying in complete silence. I'm just studying. And I hear this over and over and over again. I hear this like smacking sound, like something smacking off of something softly. I turn my head to the right, and there's a tote over in the corner of my office that I had forgotten about. And what was inside that tote were chips for the teens for Wednesday night.
Oh, good.
Well, they're not here anymore because there was a little mouse trying to jump back in to this tote, and he was failing hard. You ever see like those videos?
So wait, he wasn't in the tote. I thought he was in the tote.
He was not in the tote.
He wanted back in.
He was in the tote. He'd fallen out of the tote and wanted to get back into the tote.
Okay.
He couldn't get back in. And he was jumping like, you ever see like a little kid that's trying to like, do a vertical leap.
Yeah.
But their leg muscles have not developed enough. So it's like literally an inch off the ground.
Yeah.
That was this mouse. It was the most pathetic thing ever. So I approached the great beast.
Yeah.
He freaked out and ran away.
He had a harpoon.
He was angry that day, my friends. No. So I went over there. He shot off underneath the door of one of the closets. Because, I mean, these closets are notorious in my office for getting mice in them, especially in the winter. Because as soon as it gets cold,
they come in.
They might migrate in.
Yeah.
And this is not Fievel. All right? This isn't an American Tale. They're not seeking sanctuary.
That was one of the worst shows ever, wasn't it? Like that.
Fievel?
Wouldn't that be on like around Christmas or something? There'd be one of those specials that's on.
Fievel wasn't. I don't remember. Was there a Christmas special of Fievel?
I
remember.
I remember being so boring. I couldn't get through it.
There was an American Tale.
Yeah.
Which was like the original Fievel movie, which was good. And then there was Fievel Goes West.
Oh,
that was terrible.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's the one I saw.
This was not Fievel.
No one knows this.
People know Fievel.
Our target audience does not know who Fievel is.
Our target audience doesn't, but we've learned that our target audience is not our actual audience. So
that's true.
But our target audience, if you are listening, hi.
Yeah.
We've missed you.
Yeah.
No, so anyway, little mouse. He wanted to get back into it. So I took that bin and I put a trash bag over the whole bin, tied it off, threw it away. The mouse was not inside of it. The mouse is now gone.
Oh, you found him. You found him and harpooned him.
I did not harpoon him. I would not harpoon. He was the sweetest little mouse. I simply provided a home for him.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of those homes where they go inside and it closes shut. It spins shut. And then you just,
you take them somewhere else.
Yeah. They go to the promised land, the land of milk and honey for mice, which is, I'm sure is.
It's a tote full of Doritos, basically.
It's a tote full of Doritos in the sky. That's what it is. Doritos and cheese doodles.
Yeah,
they do love their cheese. But yeah, so that's just this past week. Yes. Zach,
some other things have happened in this office. I got to get a couple things off my chest.
What?
So there's not as many like posters on the wall, but you have mounted a T-Rex head. It's like
I don't know what you're talking about.
You go into some people's house and they have like the deer, like the buck with the antlers.
Yes,
they're so proud of this thing. It's above the fireplace.
That would not be a very big T-Rex. That would be actually a pretty pathetic
in this morning,
T-Rex.
And there is a paper T-Rex hovering over your head.
This is Rexy. He used to be out in the teen loft. Rexy he got broken.
Yeah.
And so he got brought. This is his sanctuary.
This is where he's living.
Rexy is I don't know. If he was alive, he'd still be ferocious.
He's got big teeth. He's just not very big.
He's not. I would not want to get bit. I would not get bit by him. He's a baby Rex.
Yeah, baby Rex.
Baby Rex, but he's a pretty angry baby Rex. Yeah. So I just brought him in here, but there are some new surprises for the Teen Loft. On their way.
So did you have to make them?
I did not make them this time.
Okay.
Rexy, I had
assembled him.
I have a very close relationship with Rexy, and for that, and also Jumbo, the elephant that lives above the exit.
It's not Dumbo.
It's Jumbo.
Yeah.
You don't want to get sued. It's not Dumbo the elephant. Jumbo the elephant, because he's big.
Yeah.
And it's just his head.
And there's something over there that's making me uncomfortable every time I go and look at it.
Listen, man. So we have a mannequin also in our office. It's not like a full body mannequin.
It's like a torso.
It's a torso
with no arms or head.
Okay, so we display our T-shirts. When our T-shirts are for sale for the teen ministry, we display them on this torso. But right now the torso is bare. And so it's a little uncomfortable.
I keep looking over there.
It's just a male torso sitting over in the corner, like a plastic male torso. A very tiny one, by the way.
I don't know. That's male. That's appropriate size. I think that's full life.
That's a small. I'm saying it's a small. If it was a size, it'd be a small size. That's like the size T-shirt I can fit on.
Oh, okay. I see.
It's a small.
But it's a normal human size.
A small human, yes.
Yeah.
Not an extra large human such as myself.
Not our size.
Not our size. Not a true adult male. No. Not a dad.
Not dad.
That's not a dad bod at all. Torso. No. That is a somebody in their 20s that still likes to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Anyway, Zach, but yeah, dude, there's been so much going on. So in the past month, we've been gone basically since. I think I looked. It was like mid-September.
Oh, nice.
It's the last time that we were able to record. What are some big events that have happened since then for you?
My Laura's aunt and uncle.
See, I knew you were going to say that. I'm like, that was last week, man.
Well, that was a big event.
It was a big event.
So, my 40th birthday's coming up. Couple weeks.
That's a big event coming
up, but
the 17th.
So, yes.
November 17th, Zach Cyrus will be turning 40 years old.
I can send them my address if you want that too, my phone number. I can send out all the personal information all over the podcast.
It's in... I'm not going to... No.
No, just joking.
It's not hard to find our addresses. No. Please don't.
So they came up to visit. They come up usually every year. They were not going to come up this year. Just schedules weren't going to working out. But they made a last ditched effort to come up. One of the reasons was it was my birthday, and Aunt Robin made me a beautiful quilt for my birthday. I thought it's a huge Pittsburgh sports quilt.
It was such a sweet thing. Every time your Uncle Butch and Aunt Robin come, it's always kind.
So I've got like 12-year-old Zach, maybe
12-year-old,
8-year-old
Zach. There it is.
Is getting excited.
Yes,
because on my bed now, I've got this big old Steelers, Penguins, Pirates quilt.
That's really nice.
On my bed.
Aunt Robin, you have outdone yourself.
We have our, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later. We have our outing, our fall retreat this weekend.
It starts today.
I think I'm going to take my quilt on that.
You better.
So I can snuggle.
Dude, I think it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cold. It did not start off great this week. It went from October 31st to February 2nd.
Yes. Woke up with snow
everywhere.
Yeah.
On what was
November
it?
1st,
on November 1st, we wake up with just
ridiculous amounts
of
snow.
I spent hours doing yard work the day before. I was so glad I got all my leaves out of the way.
I didn't.
You didn't get your leaves done yet?
I got them done a couple times. I have lots of leaves.
Come on, man.
Anyway,
come on.
We've talked about leaves in season 2. We're not going to talk about them again. But how about you? What's been new with you? We've got months worth of
man.
material.
I got stung a few more times by yellow jackets. The war continues.
Okay.
The war continues.
All right.
I was cutting my grass again, and Sarah said you should wear pants. This was this is several weeks ago. She's like, you should wear pants so you don't get stung. So I put a pair of jeans on. I hate cutting grass with jeans on because I get warm really fast.
Yeah,
Even when it's cooler out. That's like Mikulski. It's cold outside. Cooler outside. I still like to wear shorts because I get warm very fast. So I put a pair of jeans on, just a t-shirt. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I only ever get stung on the leg. I'm cutting the grass, Zach, and don't I get stung on the underside of my arm? Like,
ooh, that's a tender spot.
That stupid little thing latched on to the under part of my, like, I have like the, like, you know how you like got like your tricep when it's not, you know.
You're trying to think of a nice way to say your arm fat.
Yeah, my hand, it latched onto my arm fat on my underarm, and he just sunk his little stinger in there.
Oh man, that's
hurt.
Painful. Yeah,
it hurt.
Did you yell?
Oh yeah,
loudly.
I ran. Well, see, dude, I couldn't see him coming, and then another one came out of this bush, came flying at my face. I see it like a bullet. Like a very slow bullet, but it's a bullet coming right at my face, and he smacks right into my face, right into my beard, and I like shoo him away.
Good thing you had a beard.
And you know what the other
extra layer of protection,
Zach? I always have a hat on, right? Like it's very rare that people see me without a hat. It's usually on Sundays or during the workday, but any other time, I have a hat on, and I mean, and there's two reasons. One, I just love hats. Number two, I use them as like a bullwhip against flying insects. And it's very effective. I've killed so many flying insects with a hat. And I learned this from one of our former custodians here at the church because I watched him do it. And I'm like, that is the most genius thing ever.
To hit him with
it just takes his hat off. He would just like that. I'd just see this thing just die. I'm like, that's a great idea. So I've done the same thing. That's why I always wear a hat. I didn't have a hat on that day.
I
did not have a hat on.
Did you have your harpoon?
I did not have my harpoon. I didn't have anything. I was not ready for this attack. This unprovoked attack.
The natural world is after you, Steve. And I think the moral of the story is that.
And then, Zach, so after that, man, we have had 4 yellow jackets in our house since then.
You must have a nest in there.
There's a nest somewhere around the house, I'm assuming. But I've killed all 4 of them with my hats.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm not messing around. The one was like shortly after I got stung.
You were angry.
He felt the full wrath. He felt the full wrath. And I took him outside and I hung him from a thread.
No, you didn't.
And it said, "Ye be warned." That was it. That's been my fault. But no, like, I mean, not too much has gone on. Nothing overly exciting. I mean, just still fighting the war against the Yellow Jackets. Sounds like, when America was at war with the Redcoats.
Sounds like you live an interesting life.
I do. I'm at war with insects.
Yeah.
It's a hard life. It's a hard life. But I did find out that bees can suffocate Yellow Jackets. Did you know this, Zach?
I think you told this last story.
No. I've never told this story before.
Okay.
This is a new one.
Here we go.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do any dad jokes today. I thought it would be fun, but I didn't.
No,
I didn't.
I know that one now.
I felt like that ruined things a little bit. But no, the other thing I haven't done this year, and I think people aren't going to care.
People are, with that introduction, people are just sitting on the edge of their seats.
Zach, I gave up on football this year.
You did.
I gave up on football. Like, if you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, Zach and I have endlessly talked about our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Now it's just Zach's beloved Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that's true.
So halftime of week 1, I literally turned my TV.
You threw in the terrible towel.
I threw in the terrible towel. I said, you know what? I'm done. Yeah. I'm done with this. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this team is a joke.
Thankfully you have, because since you haven't been watching it, they've been doing much better.
So 5-3.
And then last week, you're like, I'm going to watch them, and they were terrible. And they lost.
Yeah.
And like, you're not allowed to watch them anymore, Stevie.
No, you know what, man? I hereby officially revoke my.
We need to get this in writing.
My fan card. It's recorded.
Hear ye, hear ye.
All ye hear now. As of this date, well, it's actually in September, so retroactively, I've revoked
Pull out the scroll.
I even turned the game on last night. I couldn't get excited about it. I don't know. I used to. I love I've loved football my entire life.
Yeah.
And this is the first time ever that I'm like, I just do not care.
So what then is filling Steven's recreational thoughts and time?
Dude, this is going to sound super lame. Maybe that sounds bad. I've spent so much more time reading books.
That's great.
Yeah.
What kind of books?
The books that you see before you. I've been reading it's not a bad thing. I've been just trying to become a better writer as far as writing messages and stuff. So I've been reading a lot of books that help me do that.
Good.
And that's, I mean, it sounds terrible for me to say. It sounds lame, but it's not, I guess I'm trying to say it's not like an exciting hobby or anything, but it's something that's brought me a lot of joy in doing so, because I feel way more prepared.
Yeah.
It's just I want to better myself. I feel like, this is what, the direction that God is pulling me in. So I've spent a whole lot of time just doing that.
Good.
And spending time with my kids. But honestly, I have zero hobbies. Last year to this year, it's weird. It's really weird. Last year, I just ended my action figure collecting. We had a big talk about it last November, I'm pretty sure. And that never came back.
Yeah.
Never came back. Praise God for that. I was done with that, but it was a slow trickle effect of things that I just progressively lost interest in, collecting things in general. It's just, I don't have a thing anymore. I will say this. I had a very nice time. Sarah and I went down to Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. Our kids stayed at my mom's house, my mom and dad's house. They stayed there and they watched them, and Sarah and I went down to Pittsburgh. We went to a record shop. I love records. I do but I don't collect vinyl. I think to be a collector, you have to have kind of it has to be more formulaic. Than I'm pretty lax about it. It's if I find something I want, great, but I'm not looking for anything.
Yeah.
I had a really good time though. We went to this place called the Attic down in Pittsburgh. Have you ever been there?
I have not. I've driven past it.
Have you ever tested the water?
No. No, I have not done that.
This is actually a pretty interesting story.
Okay.
You don't want to hear it.
I feel like I know the story.
I've barely let you talk. I feel like this is what I do.
Well, you have all the stories.
You have stories.
I don't have that many stories.
This is not that great of a story. I feel like this is going to be just what was the one story I stopped and you're like, that was it? Anyway, so
that's usually how mine go.
No. So I went down to this place. I've been looking to go to this place for a long time since I started collecting, which was just not collecting, but just got interested in vinyl earlier this year. And it's called the Attic. It's down in Millville.
Is it in an attic?
No, that's the weird thing. It's not in an attic, and that's but I think in Pittsburgh it is known as the record shop.
Okay.
But it's kind of Millville is kind of a suburb, a very nearby suburb of Pittsburgh. So it's kind of got that old Pittsburgh charm to it, where it's because you think you go back in time and it's the mill workers and stuff
there's still soot on the buildings and stuff.
Yeah, but everything was in walking distance from your house. You go down and there's your shops and your department store and little places like clothing stores and that kind of stuff. It's still set up that way, but obviously modernized. But the Attic still has that 1960s, 1970s charm to it.
Okay.
So anyway, I didn't know anything about this until I went down there. So Sarah and I go and walk in. I mean, Zach, it's not an exaggeration to say that this place has tens of thousands of albums, just all vinyl. Now they also have CDs, which
that's also an extinct form of listening to
that, which is weird in and of itself. And they also had audio cassettes there too. So yeah, you walk in. I mean, I went into this a panic mode of I don't know how I'm going to be able to process this much
information.
Yeah, because you walk in there and there's just thousands of albums, and they have just room after room after room of all this stuff. And so I didn't even know where to begin. I couldn't find any of the genres I was looking for, because they literally had every artist available from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
They had an album by Moses. Moses dropped this.
Wasn't it Miriam that did the first
4,000 years ago? Miriam?
Isn't that the Moses' sister?
Maybe. She dropped the first
the
track
first worship song after they
Exodus.
After they got through the Red Sea.
Yes, they had that.
That was in there.
It was on a 45. Yeah, it wasn't a long play album. It was like on a little 45. It was a single.
Yeah,
it was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah,
good job, Miriam.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, but they literally have everything under the sun. So I just we start walking through, and I kind of had like in my mind stuff I wanted to look for. Didn't even know where to start. The employees, I was a little bit nervous because these are guys that are like, they're going to know their stuff pretty well.
Or what were you looking for?
Okay, so I was looking for several things.
Okay.
But most of it was like more of like, I was looking for like 50s, 60s vocal groups, like, like the Four Tops, the Four Seasons, which I understand they're not even kind of the same thing, but like they have very similar names. But like vocal groups like that, or guys from that era. So like, who else was I looking for? I was looking for, I was going to say, not Frank Sinatra. I don't like Frank Sinatra.
So like oldies.
But oldies. Like that kind of stuff that sounds, there's like a magic to it when it's on vinyl.
Okay.
Right? Because that's like, it's era appropriate.
So you went to the attic looking for the magic.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not going to go to the attic and buy a Linkin Park record and put it on my record player.
I thought maybe you were good still chasing waterfalls.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to go and get a TLC album.
Yeah.
Not that was even remotely on I know that's a reference to us actually going and looking at waterfalls constantly, and I love it. So I'm just looking around and we're looking for these oldies. Sarah was looking for some stuff. Righteous Brothers. That was one of the things we were looking for. We wanted a Righteous Brothers album. Just stuff like with music that we would know, could listen to. And it's appropriate for vinyl.
Okay.
Like that was always my original plan. I wanted pre-1985 stuff because that's like the era of the vinyl record. But, right around 85 is when things started going really. Audio cassettes were a thing at that point, but CDs started coming into dominance, and that became like by 1990, that was like the dominant, format of media. So that was always my goal. So I went in looking for stuff like that. I also wanted an album by John Coltrane. Don't ask why, because I didn't know anything about John Coltrane. I'm like, I want to be a jazz guy.
There you go.
I want to listen to some jazz music. I bought this Coltrane album. He's a very talented artist. Not at all what I'm looking for. It's all instrumental. I love instrumental music, but I was expecting more like smooth jazz, and this was like. I'm like, what is this thing that I bought? Like, I thought this was going to be like easy listening. But, all right. But there was one artist. Oh, go ahead.
I need to hear what you were expecting and what you got.
I just said what I got.
Yeah. What were you expecting?
Like that.
Okay. You can put that on in the background.
Yeah, just like something nice to listen to in the background. Not a big deal.
As you're chasing Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, I want something like to just soothe the soul.
Creatures.
Yeah, I'm trying to soothe the savage beast. Not incite a riot. Not that that's what it was. It wasn't like it was like. But it was just like, it was like very up-tempo jazz. Not what I was expecting, but it was one of those albums that you always hear about. It's called Love Supreme by John Coltrane. It's an easy album to find. It's everywhere. But I was like, that like for a lot of people, that is like one of the definitive jazz albums. And I got it, and I'm like, this is one I was expecting. I wanted more like a coffee shop feel kind of album, like that kind of vibe. And I got like... We're all messed up. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like let's chill. Let's chill a little bit. But there was one artist I was looking for. His name was Julius LaRosa.
Nobody knows that.
I know that nobody knows that. He was a vocal artist from the 1950s and 60s. He was on a lot of variety shows. He actually he had a lot of potential to be one of those guys. He sounds like he sounds a lot like the Sinatras and the Dean Martin, like that kind of era of singer, just like those really beautiful voices, very clean voices.
Got it.
kind of singers, but he wasn't as big of a name. But he had a song called "A Compare," and I've told this story a million times within the church, and I'm sure like everybody's already heard this, but I don't care. I wanted that song, man.
I don't know if you've ever told on the podcast though.
I didn't. Well, no, I couldn't have because I just this was during the hiatus of the podcast. So I went to this one guy that worked at the store, and I was like, "Hey, man, do you have Julius La Rosa?" And I was just waiting for him to be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." But he was like, "Hey, yeah, I do. It's down in the basement."
Okay.
And I'm like, "What?"
There's a basement?
I didn't know there was a basement to this place because, Zach, the number of albums that they already had out and available, why would there need to be a basement? Because, I mean, I probably had already seen 30,000 albums.
Wow.
Not just like obviously not picked up and looked at individually 30,000 albums, but you're just looking around the room.
Yeah.
30,000 albums. Go down. Now he's like, this basement. He's like, I got to go turn the lights on and stuff for you. I walk down the most rickety old steps. I'm like, it looked like Indiana Jones going into like a tomb. You know what I mean? Like
there's cobwebs hanging there.
There was, dude. There was. It was
like a giant boulder chasing you down the stairs.
It was so creepy. And I'm going down these steps. It's like, like I'm waiting for like these stairs to just break and be trapped down in this basement forever. So anyway,
with the snakes, you gotta like find that giant. What's that in the first Indiana Jones movie? That giant like statue and push it through the wall.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. I'm gonna rock this thing back and forth and shove it through the wall.
Yeah.
No, but he's like, he told me exactly where it was at. He's like, you're gonna walk down these steps. It's gonna be on your right hand side. Zach, there was another easily 50,000.
I wish I knew scripture like that.
What's that?
How well he knows where stuff is.
Well, dude, that's why I used it as an illustration of my message. I'm like, this is who we are supposed to be as Christians. Like when people come to us, we should be kind and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Like loving and knowledgeable and helpful. And that's exactly what he was. And that's why I used it as an illustration of my message. Cause like talking about like, we're all united to one another. We're all like, we all belong to each other.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to have useful knowledge of the word of God so we could share it openly. And be helpful in that manner. So I walk down these steps and it's right exactly where he's at. And it's not like you said, this is not a name that people know.
Yeah.
It's not even remotely a name that people know. Like, Pastor Warren, it was like, oh, you know, Julius La Rosa. And of all the people that I would expect to know this, he would be one of them because the guy has the most extensive knowledge of music known to man. Yeah. Like he knows like the entire history of music. I feel like artists that nobody's ever heard of. I'm like, how do you know all this stuff? But he knew it. Like he was the only one that I had talked to that knew exactly who it was. But the guy helped me find this album, and it was really, really cool. And I can't say enough good things about the Attic down in Pittsburgh. This like some of the kindest employees.
The basement of the Attic.
And I was in the basement of the attic, but I was like, so when do I get to go to the attic of the said attic? But I was wondering, I'm like, what if the main floor is the attic?
Ooh.
And the basement's the main floor?
Whoa,
trippy.
That is trippy.
I don't know if that's a thing, but it was really, really cool. Then we went to this thing called the Chocolate and Coffee Festival.
Oh, okay.
And it was a festival that celebrated
two of your favorite things.
Usually when you hear chocolate, coffee, and festival, you expect those two things to be, highlighted.
Yeah.
They were not.
What was there?
Some coffee, some chocolate. And it was weird because I don't think this has ever been a thing before down in Pittsburgh. And listen, we had a really good time, but they oversold the event. Number one. There was hundreds of people in a space where there should have been maybe 100, maybe 200, and there was like probably 600 or 700 people.
Oh, wow.
In this space. Yeah, it was so cramped that we couldn't move. There was one point where we were in an aisle and I couldn't move forward or backward. Everything was at a standstill, and I turned to Sarah and I'm like, this is where I live now. Like this is my home. This is it.
It sounds like a nightmare, actually.
For me it is, because you know how I am. Like I don't like large crowds. Yeah. I'm not a big crowd guy, but like Sarah handles that stuff really well, and she enjoys like being out and doing that kind of thing, and she has like that does not stress her. It stresses me to the max. So I am trying with everything within me to push through and be a good husband and like because I want to enjoy this. Like, because we don't get days where it's just the two of us very often. So I'm like, okay, like, don't be you.
Resist the urge.
Resist the urge to be yourself and enjoy this for your wife. And I did, and I think I did a pretty decent job of doing just that. But oh my goodness, I was on the verge of having like a panic attack 1,000 times in that space. But but it was weird because they call it Coffee and Chocolate Festival. There's very little coffee to try from, and the coffee that was there was not good.
Yeah,
not good at all. Like from these different distributors from around Pittsburgh and Ohio and stuff. I was expecting to find like the next big thing in coffee when I was at this.
I think you should need to realize that Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio, Northern West Virginia, not exactly the hotbed of what I would call the coffee industry.
Zach, I am one of the creators of some of the finest cups of coffee in Western Pennsylvania. I just realized that I'm kind of alone.
Yeah.
Very much alone in it. But yes, and like the chocolate that was available, there's just random stuff. Like, okay, so like tea is coffee adjacent.
This is like Roger's Sale or something. Have you ever been to Roger's Sale?
I've been to Rogers. Rogers is the best. You don't like going to Rogers?
It's weird.
It's a big flea market.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's just a big like random people had their tent set up over there, and you could get.
It was inside. It was like an event center C of this building. And I mean, but like they let anybody who had money buy a space. So there was a lady that was like a real estate agent that had a booth. I'm like, this isn't coffee, nor is it chocolate, or is it adjacent to those two things? You're just like, you're a real estate agent. Yeah. They had, and then there's like, like winemakers and all that kind of stuff that I can't, like, I'm not going to partake in anyway.
Guy selling bootleg movies over here.
No, there was nothing like that. It had to be like, it was legit businesses. It wasn't anything like, it wasn't like our experience down in Jamaica. We've never talked about that on the podcast, by the way.
Kind of forgot about that, but yeah.
Oh, so, okay, let's go back in time. You guys want to take the way back machine with Zach and I?
All right, we need to get in the way back machine before we can go back. We need to.
All right, when we come back, we're going in the way back machine to a time before time. We'll see you in a minute. So here we are in the year 2012.
Hi, Steve. 28-year-old Zach.
Yeah, 28-year-old Zach had a significantly higher voice. He finally hit that time in his life where his voice got deeper at 30.
Yeah. Like, I'm always on the verge of being old.
That's what I said that to her. Zach is almost 40.
Yeah.
No, let's talk about this Jamaica trip that I was asked to lead back in 2012. So just a little bit of context around this trip. Zach and I are both, I mean, at this point, we've both been married to our wives for probably, 5 years?
Something like that,
We got married the same year.
2007. 5 years, yeah.
So 4 or 5 years.
I had one child.
You had one child. I had a baby on the way.
We also had a baby on the way.
And that's right. Yeah, that's right. Elliot was on the way. So we both have children on the way. And for this big mission trip truth be told, I was not excited about going back to Jamaica.
No, you weren't.
And I've said this before. It's nothing against Jamaica in and of itself or Jamaicans. It was just like I went on that trip like before.
Yep.
And I did not feel called back to Jamaica. But I was asked to lead by my employer at the time, and I said, okay.
I'll do it.
I will do it because you have asked me.
Yeah.
And, Zach and I are both in the same boat where our wives are home and pregnant.
Yeah.
I was asked to lead this trip to Jamaica. I did not want to go back to Jamaica, but it was one of those things where, and it's nothing, like I said, nothing against Jamaica or Jamaicans.
Yeah.
I went in the year 1 or 2 years prior. I'd gone, and that was enough. I didn't feel like this is where God was calling me to do mission work, and so I was like, but since I was asked, I couldn't say no because I was still in my first year of ministry, so I didn't have that like built up any level of.
Hey, you're doing this. Okay.
I guess I don't really have a choice. Like, I could have got sent anywhere. They could be like, "You're going to North Korea." Okay, like, I don't have a choice right now. So being that Sarah couldn't go, I went to Zach and I said, "Hey, buddy,
I need you.
I need you to go on this trip with me. Yeah. Like, I need to have somebody I could trust and kind of be my right hand man going on this."
Yeah.
And so we put together this team, and it was a team, man. It was quite the team.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a teen trip in quotation marks.
Teen? I meant team.
Yes, correct.
So it was supposed to be a teen / all church trip. Like, being that we were we were both involved with the teen ministry.
We had a couple of students go.
We had a few students. We had three students go. One of them had their father go, and we ended up actually striking up a friendship with him that's lasted to this day. So anyway, we go. I could not have been more nervous about going on this trip.
Yeah,
and it was something. Yeah, it was God stretching me. I think us in a lot of ways, because in leading some people, it was not always the easiest. We were young, but but we were in charge of it. Ultimately, like, the buck stopped at me for a lot of stuff, and on top of that, my boss went, but he was kind of there and kind of wasn't there. Like, he was kind of doing his own thing, but like sometimes involved, and that made it horrifying because you didn't know. I didn't know what I was allowed to do and say and take charge of, or it was one of the most uncomfortable situations you could possibly be in. But just giving a little bit of kind of painting the picture of what Jamaica is like when you fly in. You fly into, at least for us, we'd always fly into Montego Bay because we were going to the south side of Jamaica. In Black River, which was almost directly down from Montego Bay, but it was a 4-hour drive.
Was it that long?
It was 3 or 4 hours.
It took a while, and it was scary.
It took a long time.
Because they don't exactly have the same level of driving rules as we have in America.
And by not the same level of driving rules, may as well be no rules at all.
I know.
It's kind of like
you just drive as fast as you can on whichever side of the road you feel is appropriate until you get to your destination.
Well, that's the thing. So
if it's a road, usually it's not a road.
Yeah, when you're in Montego Bay, obviously it's a completely different situation than when you're in like the rest of the country. Yeah. Once you get into like true Jamaica, because Montego Bay is very touristy.
Sure,
like, it's beautiful beaches, everything. It's gorgeous. But once you get outside of Montego Bay, like you see the real Jamaica, and the reality is it's a country, it's a third world country in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a ton of poverty, and that's why we're going there. We're going there to bless people that do not have what we have, and so we go into it. And they're rich in a lot of things, but like one of the things we just come along and we help pastors that are trying to minister to the people of their towns and stuff. And so we go to Black River, which is a beautiful little place tucked away on the south coast of Jamaica. And like we said in a prior podcast, like, things start off as bad as possible, as it possibly can go. Because I had only met with I'm not going to say the pastor's name that I was working with, but I'd never met this guy in person. I've only talked to him on the phone several times and come up with the plan for the week. And as we revealed in another podcast, like, he intentionally changed the plan for the week to see how he could stretch me, which, thank you so much for that. Like, I'm 26. I'm a rookie. I am green in ministry. Like, thank you for making this more challenging, because what he did was he added a night, which, it's tough to do when, I prepared curriculum for the week, and you have a beginning, middle, and end to curriculum. It's not, it's not like, oh, we'll just throw another thing in there. It doesn't work that way. And there's just several things. It was like, change this, just changing little things, just to
tweak it a little,
just to tweak it a little bit here and there. On top of that, it's, it is not where we were at. It's safe.
Kind of.
That's exactly what I was going to, but it's not the safest. And so I also have like this part of me that's like, I got to protect my team, and especially the students. We had 2 young girls that did not come with their parents. They were older teens, but they're still teens nonetheless. So I had that in the back of my mind too. Like, I got to protect these girls. I got to take care of the team. I got this. My boss is here. He's watching me.
Sure.
One of the worst
all the things.
One of the worst messages I have ever given, ever.
Yeah.
Was in Jamaica. Was on one of our nights. I get up and I may as well have just stood there and stared at the crowd. It was like a deer in the headlights kind of thing. But just kind of going back, we'd always stayed at one location in Black River. Like, our church has had a long history of going to Jamaica. I think like almost 30 years of missions in Jamaica. Yeah. 25 years of missions in Jamaica. We'd always stayed at a certain location. Well, this time Pastor John's like, why don't we try
something new?
This place. I'm like, okay. All right. That's cool. We'll try it. And everything on paper looked great. And every conversation I had with this place was great. Execution was not great. They didn't do any of the things that they said they were going to do. Like, as far as food was concerned, our meals were awful.
Yeah, they weren't good.
They were really, really bad. We were hungry. Like, it was really, really bad. And it sounds horrible to complain about that kind of stuff, but when you're running all day long, you're like, you need to eat. And if you're not getting provided food that is nourishing, and like it just makes it that much more difficult. And so it was just constant, like, changing things and like, dealing with emotions and everything. It was very, very trying throughout the week of trying to get our feet planted firmly to do what we are going to do. And I mean, lesson learned, it's like, you go into this stuff and you don't say, okay, whatever you want. It's like, no, we got to do what we know is going to be best in all those situations. So the story, we even spurred this whole conversation, and we will finish with like all the good things that God did. I'd rather end with the good stuff than start with the good stuff, because like, I want to leave with a good taste in your mouth for what mission work is all about. One of the things we did, I forget why we ended up doing this, but we went into Black River, like the little town, the one day just to check it out. I don't know.
I didn't go on that. I think it was just a couple people that went.
You 100% were there, Zach.
Was I?
Yeah, because this is where the whole conversation came about. We went into Black River because Pastor John, who was our senior pastor at the time, he said, hey, why don't we go get some patties? Okay. Now, like, one of the big deals in Jamaica, like one of their staple kind of foods, like almost like their hamburger.
I remember now.
Their hamburger of sorts. What's that?
I remember now.
It's a pastry. It's like a puff pastry that has meat inside
Mystery
of
meat.
it. Yeah.
It's probably goat.
No, I mean, you have your options of meat. And, no, I'm just kidding. There's beef, and then you can get shrimp, you can get chicken, and then they have other ones. I think goat was one of them. But who knows what you're actually getting? Who knows? Yeah. So we ordered several of these things, and they are good at first, and then you're sick immediately afterwards because of the amount of grease. But so we're in this town. Pastor John and I go to the patty place to buy the patties. Okay. Everybody else goes off into like the little town square where you can buy things. So it was like an open air market. Yeah. And so, we're doing our thing. The rest of the team goes with Pastor John's wife into the little market, and we all get back together, and then we head back to the place that we're staying at. So we get into the men's dorm, like where all the guys are staying, and Zach's like, I got a movie for us to watch. I'm like, got a movie for us to watch? He's like, I got a DVD. I'm like, okay, buddy, what'd you get? And he's like, got The Dark Knight Rises. Okay. It's 2012. It's summer of 2012. I just went and saw Dark Knight Rises in theaters. Statute of limitations is up on this anyway, buddy. We're good. Yeah. If you want to edit any of this out,
we're good.
So he's like, I got The Dark Knight Rises. And I'm like, Zach, how did you get The Dark Knight Rises? He's like, they were selling it in town. They had it. And it came in like one of those little like plastic baggies for like a CD. Like it's like this DVD. And I'm like, okay. So we throw it into this DVD player on our computer, and it is the worst. the worst. Like, like obviously you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Because it's blurry. I think we did end up watching the whole thing.
Did we? I don't really remember.
I don't specifically remember. I don't remember us ending it early because I remember like I loved the movie in general. So I was like, I knew it well enough to know what was happening. But we're going to leave like at the end of that week.
Like, we're not taking this.
And we're like, yeah, we got to throw that away. Like, throw that thing away. So we threw the DVD away. But yeah, it was just like wild, like the stuff that and that was like in an open air market. That wasn't like underground. There wasn't like, hey, follow me back to this little room. It was like, yeah, I got these movies. You want any of these movies? I got the Dark Knight Rises. Like,
sweet,
crazy. But yeah, it was just stuff like that. It was just funny little things. Like you look back on and you're like, oh my gosh, what were we doing? But like the good things that did come out of that trip, which were plentiful. Like, I mean, a lot of bonding on that trip. Like
many friendships were built. And
I mean, our friendship was definitely strengthened because of it, because we were working together on it. I gotta say, like, a guy that I really not miss because he's like gone from this world, but like we don't see him nearly as much as a brother John Mathis, who was like our teammate on that team. He and his wife Michelle were part of our team.
They weren't married then. They weren't married. They were just like kind of friends.
Yeah. And then I ended up like getting to officiate their wedding. Yeah. Like I think the next year or something like that. It was just that it was really cool. Like just building those bonds with them, with another guy that was on our team that brought his daughter into. I'm still friends with him to this day. His daughter and her husband are here at the church, and it's wild to think of how much stuff has changed in the course of time. But I mean, that was amazing. But the ministry work that we got, the thing that I distinctly remember the most was Don's testimony.
Okay.
And when Don got up and did his testimony, and how that just blessed people's hearts. Because, I mean, I'm not going to give away what his testimony is about. That's his story to tell. But it was noticeable how it blessed the hearts of one of the hardest people to break through, not just in Jamaica, but in general, is men.
Yeah.
It is hard to capture the heart of a guy. Because, I mean, we tend to be prideful. Mm-hmm. We tend to be very, very prideful, and like our problems are our problems. I mean, that's broad strokes with men, but a lot of guys treat themselves that way. They close themselves off. They remove themselves from a situation, and they pretend like then they just swallow down their problems, and it's like it'll just go away. But I'll say that between Don and Brother John, between their testimonies, we had so many guys like stay after and ask questions and ask for prayer. Like, and that is truly the power of a testimony, and why God does not waste anyone's story. Yeah. No matter how broken you were before, God does not waste that testimony. I remember specifically with Brother John, once again, I'm not going to get into what his history was. That once again is his story to tell, but how it blessed the hearts of those young men that had very similar struggles that he had, or done things that he had done. It was incredible, because that whole week we spent like, trying to minister to these guys, and they're just like, nah, they don't want anything to do with us. They come for the food. You know, a lot of the people, like, we bring snacks and all that kind of stuff. They come for that, have the games, all that. They do the fun stuff. But it got to like the ministry time, when it got to the message time, they were like, they checked out, they walk away. With Don and John, it was like not the case. People were glued in. I had tears in my eyes as these guys told their testimonies anyway. And then to see these young men, like, give themselves over to like, and we don't know their story at this point. I mean, one of the things with short-term missions, sometimes one of the downsides of it is you don't get to see the after effect if you're not going back year after year to the same place, but there was a definite seed planted, which with each and every one of these guys, between Don's stories, like Don's testimony of God changing his life, and John telling his story of God changing his life, and just get to see these guys pray with them and give advice and be helpful. I mean, I remember John specifically, like having these young men just circled up around him, just asking him questions and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they immediately connected with his story and with his life. And I'm like, that made the trip all worth it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we did vacation Bible school during the day, and that was a lot of fun. I love, like, it's widely known that I'm not like a little kid person. I love my little kids. I love my friends' kids, but you know, I'm not going to go out of my way to like teach little kids like in a classroom setting. I don't know how to connect. I was just actually talking about that with with a teacher. I was kind of joking about it because it's like, I don't even know how to talk to you. Like, you know, like a little kid, I'm like, what'd you do today? And they're like, I don't know. Like, cause they're like, I have a hard time with that. Teenagers are definitely in my group. And so that vacation Bible school was great. But those evening sessions, as much of a challenge as it was for things to get changed last minute and for them to throw like just, you know, kind of like a screwball kind of at us. And it's like, try to hit that. And it's like, even adding that extra night was worth it because we saw people get hit with conviction. I don't know. I mean, what was your experience? I feel like I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much.
No, that trip was the first time I'd been on a mission trip, especially outside the country. I mean, we've done short-term things, little things around here. You do community work and such like that, but not a mission trip. So yes, I was second in command. So I my job was, you had more of the running the show. Yeah. The ministerial stuff. You're dealing with the pastor, you're dealing with the people that run the stuff. I felt like my job was dealing with the leader, like the people that we brought. Sure. Like to try to make sure we were ready to go for certain things. I was kind of like my role is kind of the go between you doing the administrative stuff. Yeah. And
I mean, that was a huge help because like I couldn't do both.
Right. No. And so I had just similar memories. Yeah. I remember those nights where we had those events. I remember I had to speak. And that was the first time I'd spoken outside of our church in a church event.
Yeah.
And
you did a great job.
It was one of those panic moments. Like you have those, I get those because I have a
fight or flight kind of thing. And you fought.
Yes.
And I fought.
Yes. Like I've told these stories numerous times because they're impactful for me just as a living person speaking. I had just this past week speaking down with the students. I had it come up. I felt very much attack from, I mean, it's Satan, the enemy, right? Attacking you when you're taking that step of faith out there and going out and speaking or whatever that is.
Sure.
And speaking is when you're, everyone stopped listening to you and you open your mouth expecting to spread God's word, right? And then the devil comes in and my mind goes haywire. It happened this past week. We were doing a message. We were doing talking about, we're in a series in junior high in Genesis where we've been going through the book of Genesis, and we were in
that's
fall.
what it is.
Yeah. We did the whole creation thing. So we moved on to Garden of Eden in the fall. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about sin and how God makes a way, right? And so we did like a prayer afterwards, an invitation for students to accept Christ. And so we had these response cards, but the entire time I just felt attacked.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because this is, you're always up there speaking, but when you're given an invitation and someone's making that choice today to accept Christ, like these are eternal decisions and the enemy doesn't want that. So I don't feel this ever just speaking up here anymore.
Yeah.
You do it when you're, in a big group.
When you're in a new environment.
In a new environment, yeah. So I had that. But anyway, I felt that in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. I hadn't had that before. Like it was college talking about river otters, which we've talked about a million times.
Such a good example.
So I'm up there, and I might have told this story, but I'm up there, the whole room. Pastor John was not there.
Yeah,
he was. I think he was doing because he had other engagements.
He did. He was going around talking with other pastors that we had New Life had connected with over the years.
So if he was there, I would have been much more nervous.
The week that the day that I spoke, Pastor John sat there and
front row,
and you had to see the look on his face.
Yeah,
to understand the panic that I felt.
I know. And you're thinking in your mind, oh man, my boss is thinking, this
doing
is
terrible.
It.
The reality was he forgot his glasses, but he had this squint on his face. Like it looked like somebody that's like trying to figure out what you were saying.
And that's the worst feeling in the world.
If it made any sense. And I remember like his wife telling me later, she's like, yeah, he just forgot his glasses. I'm like, oh
yeah,
that would have been good to know going into that. But I still was so insecure about, speaking. But anyway, I'm sorry, Zach, this isn't my story.
So I get up there and I had my whole thing. When I speak, I do it different than you do. If I speak, if you speak in front of the main side, you have notes and such.
Back then I had like extensive notes. Now I have like I have my passages, and that's it.
Yeah. Usually because of times like this, I'll have the same, I try not to look at them, but I have everything written in case my mind goes blank because of this exact moment. I'm up there and I've got everything written out, but right before I get up, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to say the verse that was the motto of our student ministry.
I remember this. Go ahead.
I can't even remember.
So good.
I can't even remember what it was now.
It was Studio 315. Wasn't it like James 3:15 or something?
2 Peter 3:15.
2 Peter 3:15.
Something like that. But so we'd recited it so many times, right? And so it's one of those things that's ingrained into your memory.
Yeah.
And so I write just the verse. I just write
verse, like the first couple words, just to spur your.
I didn't even say the first couple words. I just wrote the verse.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Just the numbers. 2 Peter 2:3:15 or whatever it was. I get up there and I say, in the motto of our student ministry is 2 Peter 2:15. I look down, it's not there. And I'm trying to bring it to memory.
I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
And I cannot do it. I think it's always be
ready
to give account to the
Yeah.
We've said it so many times, but now it's blocked from my memory. Like I have a mental
block. Be prepared
block.
in all seasons to give an account of. Yeah, so I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
I say it, and then it's just instant panic because I do not have it there in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pastor, the Jamaican pastor, is sitting in the front row.
Yeah,
and he starts saying it. Thankfully, he's amazing. Like
that guy. No,
he had scripture memorized.
He knew his stuff.
And so he starts saying it, and so then he'd say a word, and I would say the word. He'd say a phrase, and I'd say a phrase.
It was like he was taking care of his 5-year-old son. That was like doing a speech in front of the church.
Oh my gosh! And then in that moment, then it's just like haywire in your brain. Like you need something to plug these circuits back in.
Yeah, this cannot get any worse right now.
Yes, but thankfully. It went okay after that, but it was one of those panic moments where in the moment I'm thinking I'm just going to walk off. It'd be better if I just say, guess what, guys? I can't do this.
Yeah. Like, I think I have dysentery and like just walked off.
Yeah. It's the fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to fight through this?
I don't remember it being like, I know, I remember now that you say that, I do remember that situation. I do remember you getting fed the words. Beyond that, you did a great job.
Yeah.
You did a really, really good job. The thing that I remember is you doing a very good job and me tanking it to the point where like, I don't know if I'm going to have a job when I get back home. But, but praise God, a lot of grace was given and I was allowed to develop as a speaker because I was not prepared for that. I think you had more speaking practice too, because I think you'd spoken to the teens before.
Oh, sure. I spoke a lot because whenever Pastor Matt was here, I was I had the same pretty much role I had with you, with him, so I would fill in whenever he was off. I did speak several times.
I was such a rookie. I was still such a rookie. I mean, I'd been on the job for a year at that point, but at that point in my youth ministry career, I was still like, I had stage fright for 2 years.
Wow.
With the teen ministry.
Yeah.
Like my brain would race if kids were just staring at me and I got very little reaction. It's hard to get reaction out of teenagers in general.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's hard to get a reaction out of them, especially when you're giving them a message. But like I would stop a message like midstream, be like, let's pray.
Yeah.
And I'd walk off. And like, I mean, and I would be like Sick.
Yeah. No, I that's the worst feeling.
It is. But I mean, that was the first 2 years of speaking with the teens. And then to go to Jamaica in front of people that I didn't know.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was so much worse.
Yeah, there's the whole, I mean, they speak English, but there's a language barrier because it's such a
cultural barrier.
Cultural and thick dialect. Like, it's hard to understand what they're saying, and I felt like I wasn't connecting well. Yeah, so
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of that, but yeah, I just remember just not going super well. But I do, but what sticks out in my brain the most, like I said, it was those testimonies, and like it kind of comes off of what you're talking about, is like be ready in all seasons to present to people what you know about Christ, and that's exactly what those two guys on our team did, was presented the gospel through their testimony, how God saved them through the good news. And that's their testimony. And it did touch lives. And I'm like, I just sat back in awe of those guys, because I think that's where we're at now. Like we're old. We're old, and there's like,
I'm always on the verge of being old.
Yeah, you're always on the verge of being old. That trip, you're on the verge of being 30. Yeah. This trip, but like you're within weeks of going 40. Into. I feel like 40 is like the unknown. Right?
Yeah, like I'm in directly in the middle of a midlife crisis here. Like I'm in the deep end trying to paddle.
I'm serious. Like, that's how it feels. I felt like 30 was just an extension of 20 in some ways. I mean, there's a lot more 30, growing.
Yeah, when you're in your 20s, you want to be thought of as mature.
Yeah.
I want to be 30. Yeah. When you don't want to be 40.
40 is just weird because
you remember your parents being 40.
Yeah, exactly. You remember your parents turning 40. Yes. It's one of your earliest memories. It's like, I remember when my parents turned 40, and it was like terrifying, because it's like, what happens to my mom and dad now?
Yeah.
And it's really nothing. Yeah. It's nothing. But it is like that 40. Yeah. Like, but what's even crazier to me is like 50 to me is like where it really hits. And it's like, that's not that far away. Like, I remember going from 30 into 30, and I'm like, oh man, 40 is not that far away. And I'm like, we're both approaching 40. Obviously you are, it's,
I can see it.
You're in the end stage of 30, buddy. Yeah, like 30 is quickly evaporating. Yeah. You're like, it's like, Marty McFly disappearing in the picture at the end of Back to the Future. Like, that's where you're at. That's your 30s.
Yeah.
They're very quickly disappearing. But 40s, I think, but I look at 40 now though, and so many of our friends are in their 40s, which is like, goodness gracious. Once again, isn't that not one of the weirdest experiences? It's just like all my buddies I have buddies in their 40s and some in their 50s. Like, and like you look at that and it's like, oh, the guys in their 50s, they're really not that much older than me. Like, we're 10 years apart. Like, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that much older.
Yeah.
But like when you're a kid, like 50 seems ancient.
Oh yeah.
When you're 40, 50 seems like, oh, that's a decent stage.
I know.
It's going to be okay. But that trip, I will always remember it for all the good that it was and all the growing that it allowed. I would not do it again.
Yeah.
As it were.
So I remembered the talk there. I remembered the food. We had like fish. And I can remember they saying, well, the fish tastes like fish. And I'm like, well, I don't like fishy things. Like, I like my fish to taste like chicken nuggets.
Man, fish sounds really good right now.
I don't like my fish to taste like like a fish. Like
sure. No, I you don't like a real like strong fish flavor.
Exactly.
If you're gonna have fish, you want fish to be like.
Is my memory correct?
Yeah.
But they just brought out like a big pile of food. Wasn't like beans and rice and just like random
beans
fish?
And rice were like
in a pile.
Yeah, no, it wasn't
on a plate, but the plate was like a pile.
Yes, so dinner time. Yes, lunchtime they would bring us out. It was styrofoam containers for food in it.
Oh, okay.
And it was like we paid a fortune.
Yeah,
like I'm not even kidding. Like we paid a lot of money to stay where we stayed. Because it was safe.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing you have to look for. Like when you're an American tourist not staying in one of the touristy areas, like you have to stay somewhere that's, that is fenced in and guarded, essentially. And so you pay a lot of money for that. And then on top of that, you pay a lot of money for the food, for them to provide you food 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So the place that we stayed at before always provided amazing meals, like very safe environment, amazing owners. This place, no.
Yeah.
Not at all. It was the exact opposite. So we would get these cardboard containers. It was the same thing like every single day. And they had told us one thing when we got set up. When we got there, it was quite the opposite. Yeah. Like and some of the food was inedible.
Yeah.
Like it was like either not prepared correctly, whatever the case might be. It was so bad. It was like some of it was like we were concerned that was going to make our team sick.
Yeah. So I remember that.
Yeah.
And then
at dinner they would bring out like it was like family style dinner. But yeah, that was rough. That was rough. But
the other thing I remember is we brought soccer balls.
You brought soccer balls.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I felt led to do. I don't know why. Obviously the Holy Spirit led me to do it, but I don't know where it came from. I can't remember. I always wanted to do a sports ministry.
Yeah.
That's my original calling, I felt, was sports ministry.
Yeah.
Because that was my love. I loved sports and I loved God, right? And so let's combine the two things.
Do we need to talk about that? I love sports and then I love God.
I love God and I love sports.
There we go.
So
the first time was the real wave. No, I'm just kidding.
So I would do research on sports, like churches that had a sports ministry. More like so that was the idea would be a part of your human walk with God is the physical part as well. Having our bodies be a temple to the Lord.
Yep.
And so, it was physical activity. It was preparing little camps and stuff, outreach stuff, just the physical and spiritual health of the congregation. That's what I wanted to do. So going down there, I'm like, how can I do that? What does Jamaica like? Like, what is the sports theme there?
What does every country like except for America?
Soccer. So we found these soccer balls, and we got one up here. Still.
You got okay, you cannot credit the team. This was your idea. And I don't mean that as like, I don't want to take credit for an idea that you had because I thought it was a great idea. I still have one of the soccer balls in my office. It's never left.
Right. So it's called the Mission Ball.
Yes.
And it's a company that sells these balls that have gospel messages on them. And, so different Bible verses and such. And so the idea is you pump up the ball, you throw it into the crowd and they play with it and they take home the gospel with them.
Exactly.
Great idea, right?
And it's a good quality soccer ball. It's not like a cheapy, like little plastic ball. It's like, it's a good soccer ball. Yeah. So like they'll appreciate it more because it's good.
Yeah. So a couple of things I didn't think of though, when I did this. One, soccer balls are not small.
Nope.
How do you get, there's like 20 of them.
Yep.
How do you get 20 soccer balls to Jamaica? Didn't think about that.
Zach's not our logistics guy. That's fine. He's the idea guy.
Yeah. So we had to obviously deflate them.
Yeah.
And they were heavy. And then we had
a traveling soccer team.
We had to think of a way then of re-inflating them when we got there. The other thing I didn't think of was the riot it was going to cause when you gave them.
You can't give one thing. No. You cannot, like, if you give something to one person, you have to have something for everyone.
Yes,
everyone.
So we would give it to a group, and then it would just be like a riot,
brawl,
like a brawl, all out brawl.
We need to have Pastor Greg on our staff. He has some of the best
mission
stories.
Yeah.
We have to have him on this podcast at some point. Yeah. Like he has the best stories. But go ahead.
And then one last thing. I remember the trips back and forth on the bus, and to tie it all together, there was a trip we were making, and we would drive past just the communities or the houses or whatever. And there was somebody out there in a field of watermelons. Do you remember this? He was like, there was watermelons there. So we stopped our van, our bus, whatever it was. I don't know if it was a student or if it was one of the leaders, got out with one of the soccer balls and traded the guy for a watermelon with a soccer ball. We went out there, he handed him the soccer ball. We got a watermelon back, and there was a little conversation happened. I didn't go out, so I don't really remember.
One of our students did that?
I think it was our student with a leader went out and talked to this person, explained what this was. And the person, you could see like their face just lighting up.
Yeah.
Get this soccer ball. The trade happened. We get a watermelon.
Yeah.
And just the thought in your heart that, wow, we just gave them the gospel message in a way that's tangible.
Yeah.
And so that was one of those things, like, who knows how the Holy Spirit could use an interaction like that.
That's good.
So it's just a cool thing. And I don't remember what the watermelon tasted like, but I remember we brought back this watermelon.
I don't remember. I remember we did not get, and I think part of that was we were told we were going to have fresh fruit every day. And one of the things that Jamaica is known for is its fresh fruit. It's some of the best in the world. Just because it's a tropical environment and everything. And they have like the mango that I've had in Jamaica is some of the greatest mango I've ever had. Their bananas are exceptional. Like everything. Yeah. Everything that you found that they grew was exceptional. And the place that we stayed told us, fresh fruit every day. Not once. Not once. We were getting it was like canned stuff. Yeah. Like, all right, what? Yeah. Like there's a mango tree right there. Like, you have one on your property. Why are we not getting these mangoes? Maybe they weren't in season, whatever the case might have been. It was just, it was one of those things. I don't remember that specific thing. I think that was an extension of us just wanting fresh fruit. Yeah. Yeah. I remember having conversations even when we were down there. I'm like, hey, can we give you extra money? Yeah. To get us fresh fruit today? Yeah. No problem. We gave the money. We never got the fresh fruit. Yeah. Like it was rough. Like the stay was rough in a lot of ways. It was a cool place. I remember like it being like a neatly set up, like resort that we stayed at. Cause once again, you have to stay somewhere safe. It was really neatly set up, and it was
not a resort like you would think.
No. I'm not talking about like a resort like you go to like Sandals or something. This is like resort, meaning like it's fenced off and it's closed in and it's guarded.
Yeah, there was there was like dorm rooms kind of. Yeah. With the bathroom in the room. So you could get 4 people in a room. Yeah. So you had maybe.
And there was nobody else staying there while we were there. We were the only ones staying at this place.
And then there was a common place where you could sit down and have meals. Like it's kind of like I don't know, just a room with a table.
Do you remember? Like I remember. Like, there's like a lot of places. It was right on the beach too, but you weren't allowed to go in the water because crocodiles are known for. So Black River is just that. It's a river, and it's a riverhead that goes into the ocean. The crocodiles were known for coming out of the river and coming right up onto the beach. Yeah. And you don't mess with saltwater crocodiles. They are extremely dangerous and very territorial. One night, do you remember?
Yes.
One night, we're looking for 2 of our teen girls. They're nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And we're all
got eaten by a crocodile.
Zach!
That's not true.
Don't spoil the story. No, but we're looking for them. We're looking all over the place for them. And I went to somebody and I'm like, hey, have you seen the girls? And they're like, oh, yeah, they're out. They're sitting on the beach. I'm like, what? It was pitch black outside. And that's a public beach. It's outside of the property. I lost it. I was so mad. Yeah. I'm like, girls, you put yourself in harm's way in so many ways. Because not only are there animals, there's people that we don't know everybody. I'm not trying to paint everybody to be some sort of violator in some sort of way, but you don't know the people. And you're going to stand out here in Jamaica. You cannot go out onto the beach like that. And oh gosh, I was so angry. Yeah. I was so angry. And we were almost that was like the day before we were going to leave too. I'm like, so it wasn't even like a thing where you don't ever do that again. I'm like, you can't do that again. But yeah, like I said, it was a cool trip, and we haven't been back since. But that summer brought 2 things. It brought, I think, one of the mission trips that I struggle with the most, and one of the mission trips that I have continued to be part of to this very day, which is our Canada trip. Which that's a highlight reel that I could probably fill 10 podcasts with of all the things that we've done over the past 11 years of being part of ministry work in the greater Toronto area. So, Zach, I think we have talked for a long time today. It's obviously we
got lots to talk about.
There's probably way more that we could talk about.
That's all right. We'll save for next one.
Yeah, for the next. So the plan is twice a month we're going to have the podcast on. I don't know what Friday this is of the month. This is the first Friday of the month, so we're looking at the first and third Friday,
maybe,
of the month.
We'll get you a couple podcasts a month.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to have at least 2 podcasts per month. Hopefully it's every other Friday. But our goal is 2 podcasts a month. So anyway, I'm Steve.
I'm Zach.
We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.